ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
Welcome into the Thursday, March 9th edition. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. The phone line is open to text. That's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. You can also find me on Twitter. I am your host on Twitter, at Paul Swann. There are no others on Twitter. I'm it. I'm the only Paul Swann on Twitter. I have the exclusive. How's everyone doing today? I do appreciate it that you're here with us, and we, of course, will talk everything we possibly can over the next hour about what's going on in our little corner of the world. We've got a lot of high school basketball to follow. If you have been following any of the tournaments, we had several local teams and girls basketball trying to make their way to a state championship. The good news is we have Ashland continuing. The Kittens beat Knott County Central earlier today, 46-34. So we've been following the Kentucky Sweet 16. That's over on our sister station, Cat Sports 93.3 and 1340. Now, unfortunately, we lost some teams today. Spring Valley and the 4A semi lost to Morgantown 48-35. Wayne and the AAA quarter lost to Sissonville 49-45. Yesterday, we lost Tulsa after the show. We lost Tulsa to Tucker County 66-44, and that was in the 1A quarter. And then we lost in the Ohio girls D2 semi. Fairland lost to Northwest 56-34. So we lost some teams. We still have Ashland alive. We're going to be following the Tomcats, the Kittens. They like to be called the Kittens. That's going to be on our sister station again tomorrow. Cat Sports 93.3 and 1340. Now, you know what else we're keeping an eye on? Trying to keep an eye on the West Virginia game, taking on Kansas. West Virginia in the Big 12 tournament. And right now, West Virginia making it interesting. It's 69-57. It's a little tighter than it was in that first half, but still West Virginia hasn't done enough just yet to catch up. They were outscored in that first half 31-23, and the second half they are trailing 38-34. So they've got some work to do, and they've got under 3 minutes to do it. I think West Virginia should be good to get into the NCAA tournament. However, there's always the NIT. There's always NIT for West Virginia. And, of course, Marshall looking for a bid in the NIT. We're going to talk more about that later. Because, again, the Thundering Herd active on the social media. I don't know if that's going to be enough to push the Herd forward. If you have an active social media presence, does that translate into, okay, this is a great spot to go, bring the NIT back to Huntington, let's do it? Or is Marshall done? Because I don't believe, in my heart, I don't believe that anything less than the NIT is going to be accepted. I could be wrong. And, of course, if you're Tavion Kinsey, as you're looking to go to the next level, do you want to risk it by going to a third or fourth tier tournament, risk injury, or, okay, I'm done? It was a great run. Would have loved to have seen us in the NIT. If I'm Tavion, I would love to have been in the NIT. Play a few more games there. But even then, that's a risk. So Tavion, is it in his nature and his mindset to maybe say, you know what? I'm good. He's loyal. He's appreciative. I think he's done his part for Marshall athletics, for Marshall basketball. He has done his part. So now, if I'm advising him, I'm telling him, look, hey, if it's not the NIT, if it's the NCAA, take that. You got to do it. You have to do it. If it's the NIT, it's not as prestigious as the NCAA, but it's still a pretty big deal. It's a good tournament. A lot of history. Yeah, you should do that. Take that postseason opportunity. If you get down to the point where you're looking at these other tournaments, if I'm advising him, and I really think that he's got a shot at making the next level, or I want him to have a shot at the next level, I'm advising him not to do it. It's like, no, don't do that. Don't put yourself at risk for this. Yeah. NCAA tournament, it's one shining moment. And luckily, we don't have too many defections. When we get to bowl season, if you're not playing for the championship or one of the major bowls, how many players say we're good? We're gonna not participate in the bowl. How many have we seen? We've seen a lot do that. It's not overwhelming, but it happens a lot more than you think. For basketball, if I'm Tavion Kinsey, I'm looking at this with major intent because with a few more games in a tournament that not as prestigious, is that going to help? There's a lot of film on me right now. I'm pretty sure we can all go back to the ESPN Plus archives and we can dig up a lot on Tavion Kinsey. I think we're good. We got a lot of film. We got a lot of scout video there. Or does he just say, look, I'm going to take the opportunity to get ready for the next level. So we got that to consider. And, of course, we got some big news for Tavion Kinsey today. We're going to get into that with you. And we're going to update you on a couple of scores. We've been following some of the tournaments. A Big 12 tournament is going on right now, the ACC tournament. We've got that for you here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. So I'm looking forward to that. And with about 18 seconds to go, Kansas is going to win, leading West Virginia 78-61, 18 seconds to go. We'll get you a final when we continue. We'll start taking your text at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. More coming up on this edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the Thursday, March 9th edition. Your drive continues on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. We're getting your text in this hour, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Good news today for Tavion Kinsey. We might not have postseason opportunity coming the Herd's way. We're still up in the air there, but Marshall University men's basketball fifth-year senior Tavion Kinsey named a 2023 Lou Henson Award finalist today. That award is presented annually to the best mid-major basketball player. Just another piece of the hardware shelf that's going to be full. Already the Sun Belt Conference Player of the Year, a first-team all-conference member. He is seventh in the nation this season in scoring. Scored 706 points, averaged 22.1 points per game. 20 games of 20 or more points, and 271 made field goals. That led the Sun Belt. Ranked third in Division I men's basketball. Career-high 37 points at Georgia State on February 11th. That is the most by any student-athlete in a Sun Belt Conference game this season. So, the Thundering Herd, at least for a few more days. We'll see if there's anything else coming out here. Needs to build Tavion a bigger award shelf. A bigger award shelf. I mean, pretty good. This is it's a pretty prestigious award. It honors the former Illinois and New Mexico State head coach, won 775 games in 41 seasons. It's a pretty big deal. Any award that you can get like this is a pretty good thing to have. And, of course, I was noticing Marshall's social media putting it out there today and also trying to leverage it as, hey, here's another reason why get the herd in the NIT. I give Marshall's social media accounts and managers and the athletic department all the props in the world. Go rattle the cages of the NIT as much as you possibly can. Put yourself out there, lobby. I'm okay with that. I'm all for it. I just don't know if it's going to be enough. We got a ways to go here before everything is finally figured out. I think there's going to be some interesting at-large bids this year. I don't think anything's set in stone. We'll find out. Sunday, Selection Sunday. We look forward to it. Sort of like a little mini holiday. You have Christmas, you have Easter, you have Selection Sunday. Is Selection Sunday in the same hemisphere as Super Bowl Sunday? Maybe not. March Madness might be in that close to the hemisphere, but Selection Sunday, I think what it is Monday. Monday's the bigger deal because that's where the brackets get filled out. That's the real holiday, the brackets getting filled out. And of course, you have that one person in the office, the bracket master. The bracket master is the one that once Selection Sunday is announced and the brackets go live, that person sending out the email to everyone that participated last year, everyone in the office. Here's the rules. Here's the bracket. Fill it out. I'm that guy. I got the job and I'm now stuck with it. I'm the guy in the office. Filling the brackets out. Here it is. And there's one person in the office that comes in, start of the tournament. Here's my paper bracket. And I look up at that person and I'm like, really? How many years have we been doing this? Paper brackets? Who does paper brackets anymore? Seriously. Tell me if your tourney pool uses paper brackets. And of course, I have two of those people that submit paper brackets. One, I can give the business to because, well, they're a salesperson. I can do that. The other person, I can't give that person the business to because he could ask me to leave and send me on my way. So I'm not going to name names, but that narrows it down who turns in the paper bracket. Who uses paper brackets anymore? And you print them out, though, right? I'm sure a lot of people print them out, but no, we do the online bracket here. Our text line is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. From our text line, texter writes in, tells me that they've been on the road the past few days and unable to catch the broadcast. Well, before we continue, let me tell you, we have an app that you can download on the App Store. If you have an iPhone or an Android phone, we got an app for that. And it lets you listen to the show live. It also has a tab where you can listen to the podcast, or you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. So I've got a solution for that if you want to try to catch the show when you're on the road. So here's the texter's question. Describes it, frames it as disappointing opening round loss in the Sun Belt Conference tournament first. Why no timeouts late in the game to stop the Texas State momentum? Dan D'Antoni, I'm sure, didn't feel like that it would help. I mean, that's a coaching decision right there. That's a coaching decision. How many times has Dan really stopped the time? Sometimes likes to see the players work their way through it. Second part of this question, why did Coach D'Antoni let all that time run off the clock at the end? Again, same thought here. Maybe didn't want to get into a fouling contest, or maybe didn't want to get into a back and forth. Maybe thought he had a couple of plays left in his back pocket. I can't explain that. And if you can, let me know. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I can't explain, why coaches do that. Well, I was listening to Tony Kemper's presser the other day, and he was trying to keep his timeouts in his back pocket because he was expecting a run from the Thundering Herd on the ladies' side, and thought that, okay, any time now it's going to come. I'm going to need these timeouts. The run's coming. I'm going to have some timeouts in my back pocket. I need them. The runs never came for the Thundering Herd. It didn't formulate the way I'm sure Dan thought it was going to formulate. So, poor clock management, or he thought something else was going to happen and it didn't. I really, honestly, that's a mystery to me as well. I mean, you always use your timeouts. You don't want to have timeouts left at the end of the game if they would have helped, right? Now, again, Dan D'Antoni has forgotten more about college basketball and high school basketball and NBA basketball, period, than a lot of us ever knew. So I will give him all the respect he is owed and deserved, because Dan knows a lot about basketball. Unfortunately, the Thundering Herd just did not figure it out toward the end. Texter writes in and says, Coach D'Antoni watches a good game instead of coaching a good game. Folksy humor only gets you so far. I'm sad to say it's time for a change. Go Herd. Do you think it's time for Coach to step down and retire? I don't want to see Dan ousted the way Coach Boeheim was ousted. I don't want to see anything like that. That's what I'm interested in. I want to see Dan go out properly. If he's over it and he wants to go, he's over it. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That's our number to be a part of the program here today on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. We'll get more of your comments and text in. We're going to talk a little bit more about what happened with some of the local teams in the high school side of things in Charleston today. Bill Cornwell was at the game. I believe he's going to step in here in just a moment, and we're going to talk about it when we continue on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the Thursday, March 9th edition, The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Yesterday, I was pushing for a parade route that started at Bill Cornwell's house because we were going to have potentially 3 state champions in the state of West Virginia, all residing in Wayne County. Unfortunately, that did not happen today. We got none. Bill Cornwell, who was in Charleston this morning watching all the action, now is with us, and we couldn't get one.
Exactly.
Not one.
And then there were none, yeah. Yeah, of course, last night, the Tulsa Lady Rebels, they lost to Tucker County by about 20. Bad second half for them. Today, new day dawned. Spring Valley, of course, had the first-round win over who was it they played the other day? Beckley. They had a convincing one over Beckley. Well, today they play a very good second-seeded Morgantown Mohegans team. So it was number 2, number 3 going at it, and unfortunately number 2 gets the win. Spring Valley had a really rough second quarter, and that kind of created the space. They made a nice comeback in the fourth quarter, got it within 6 points at one point, but Morgantown made free throws and made plays at the end to pull away for a win. So Spring Valley end of a really good season. And then the Wayne Pioneers, the third-seeded team in the Class 3A tournament, they were wearing the white, and they were going against the Sissonville Indians, which, of course, is a Cardinal Conference brother team. And they had played Sissonville earlier in the season, beat them by about 28, and today it didn't happen. Wayne had a lead late in the game, about the last minute and a half, could not hold it. Sissonville made some unbelievable shots, and they come away with a 3-point win. And so the season's over for the Pioneers, for the Timberwolves, and for the Rebels. And then we cross the river, and the team that never lost all year, they lost today, and we're talking about the Fairland Lady Dragons.
Yep.
They were in the Final Four of the Division II state basketball tournament in Ohio at University of Dayton Arena, and they fall to Canal Fulton Northwest by about 20 points.
56-34.
56-34. It was, and it really wasn't close most of the game, Paul. And so I feel sorry for those kids from Fairland because, I mean, they had an unbelievable year. And it's one of those deals where, you know, if you win a time or lose a time or two during the regular season, you know, it happens and you learn from it and you grow from it. Well, they never lost during the regular season. They had not lost in the postseason. And it's like you get one step away from a state championship and you just don't have a good day. And obviously they were beaten by a really good Northwest team. So, you know, they had a great season, just could not get it done. On the better end, the Ashland Kittens get the job done against Knott County Central today. They win 46-34, had a big lead at halftime, and kind of held on. Knott County Central made a little bit of a run in the fourth quarter, but never got it really close to the Kittens. So Ashland is on to the final 8 in the Kentucky Sweet 16. Of course, last night, Paul, we had some teams punch their ticket for the boys tournament, Class 4A in West Virginia. Huntington Highlanders, they are going to be going, and they are actually going to be the number 4 seed. And their first opponent will be a Mountain State Athletic Conference brother member in the South Charleston Black Eagles, the number 5 seed. So that's going to be an interesting game right there. Now, the other co-regional last night in 4A, Cabell Midland, just not even close as they lose to Parkersburg South up in Parkersburg. An excellent Parkersburg South Patriot team. Very much George Washington and Morgantown. Watch out for those teams next week in the boys tournament in Charleston.
Bill Cornwell's with us. All right, I just got to ask you this serious question here. You called them brother institutions with the girls tournament.
Okay,
should be sister.
Sister, okay.
Okay, I that was just driving me
It's
crazy.
been a long day, Paul.
I understand. I just wanted to correct that now. that was driving me crazy there.
But it's interesting, though, you know, you play all year.
And then you see them again.
And you know, who knows what happens next week. Say South Charleston maybe beats Huntington and advances. They're going to end up going against their fellow Kanawha County team, possibly in the George Washington Patriots, who we've talked about. And Coach Rick Green's team is just outstanding once again. And, of course, they won the MSAC championship over Huntington. And but I think Huntington's got a shot, maybe doing some damage next week. This team has gotten better and better as the season's gone on. They had kind of a slow start. Remember, Paul, that they had a bunch of guys that were on that state championship football team. And for those of you who know athletics, after you play football, then you play basketball. I call it you have to get your basketball legs, because there's a difference in how you compete and how you run for football and how you do with basketball. Big difference. Obviously, you're not carrying a bunch of equipment like you are in football. So, yeah, you know, you have to kind of adapt. And it took Huntington a little bit to do it, but they've done a great job. And they're in Charleston next week, so go get them. And, of course, I believe tonight, Paul, Huntington St. Joe's going for a shot to go. They have a tough road, though. They have to go all the way down to Naugatuck, West Virginia, to take on the Tug Valley Panthers, who are one of the best teams in Class A. And they are, I've seen them earlier this year, and they are really good. They're a kind of a Class A team that could play a class or two classes up. So, but Huntington St. Joe's always got a shot. And, we'll see if Coach Todd Mander can get that bunch going tonight, but they're going to have their hands full.
Bill Cornwell, a long day in the capital city.
Hey, you know what? It was good to be there, and great to see a lot of folks, even from Wayne and Spring Valley. A lot of students, a lot of folks made the trip there, and even got to spend good time with some of our old buddies like Ryan Epling and Dave Wilson, who, of course, Dave's involved with some of the Metro News coverage down there, as always.
And they're both getting old, as we are.
They are getting old, and but hey, it's good to see folks and visit with some of our good friends like Travis Jones. Of course, does some bowl action for us when it's college bowl season, but part of the Metro News crew as well.
Tomorrow, it's going to be Ashland Blazer versus McCracken County.
McCracken County.
Get you updated there. McCracken County. 5:45 airtime on Cat Sports 93.3 and 1340.
And of course, we know the Tomcats, their first opponent is going to be Owensboro. I believe it's Owensboro Apollo which for you folks that know Conference USA and now Sunbelt basketball is the alma mater of Old Dominion head coach Jeff Jones.
Now I know.
And that is who Ashland will be playing next week in the first round of the Boys Sweet 16 at Rupp Arena.
And that's going to be at 8:15 p.m. next Wednesday.
They're playing the last game of the first day of the Sweet 16.
Looking forward to it. The Red Devils of Owensboro.
That's it.
The Red Devils. They are. You look at what they've been able to do. They went on a little bit of a losing streak, and then after when they got into the 9th district, boom, they took off. So they went into the 9th district on a 3-game losing streak, and then worked their way into the Sweet 16. I like the way Kentucky does it. I like this. None of this. Oh, okay. You eliminate everybody in your region and your district, and then you go to the state. You just get rid of them. You don't have to see them again. No more of this brother sister stuff. You don't see them anymore.
And of course, what makes it tough in Kentucky? It's not a class. It's not a division. It's not a district. It's 16 teams.
I like that.
It could be a tiny school. And of course, it's like the Hoosiers thing. It's almost like you got Hickory out there with some of these schools. But it can be a giant Louisville school or Lexington school and some little school in the mountains.
None of this stuff about, hey, we need to have 4 classes. Just put them all in. Let's go.
Put them all in, and that's what they do and have done for decades. I almost said centuries, but decades in Kentucky.
Look, if Paul wants to get back to the Charleston, let's go.
Well, I forgot about Paul.
I have not. Bill Cornwell, whose day is done at the capital city.
Stick a fork in me.
You're not going back until you're not going back.
I'm not going.
Yeah, you're done this year. You're done.
But this week and probably next week, because you know what? Next week's the NCAA tournament, and that's kind of like a holiday. Sort of like a holiday.
Get your bracket ready. Don't turn in paper, by the way. Don't be that guy.
I don't do that. I do electronic.
Okay.
But I do save one on paper just
that's fine.
For record-keeping purposes.
You can print your bracket, but you don't scratch it and put it in legible. I have to sit here and make a judgment call like, okay, which team did you pick?
Record-keeping purposes only.
Bill Cornwell, I'm glad you had fun today. Unfortunately, none of our teams in the area that we root for and follow won, so I'm not going to put that on your – I'm not going to lay that at your feet.
Other than the Kittens, though.
Well, no, but you were in Charleston, and all those teams lost.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah,
I got
Tim Stevens is at fault for Fairland because he was covering it for HD Media.
That's right.
And so I was carrying the Kittens over in Cat Sports, so I get the victory today.
By the way, I guess I'm already covered. Marshall softball now 19-3, 9-1 win against Cleveland State today as they got their round robin for this weekend going a day early.
I hadn't got there yet, but we are now there.
How do you know? I mean, what a job that they are doing. And got a couple of they got 2 games tomorrow and 2 games coming up Saturday. They could be 23 and 3 by the end of the weekend if they can keep going.
Pretty good stuff there.
Yep.
Bill Cornwell, he appreciate you stepping by. We'll do this again sometime here in the near future.
I'm going home.
Go home. All right, he's going home. Your mic's off. Go home. More coming up. This is The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
We're taking Paul Swann everywhere. Download or subscribe to The Drive with Paul Swann on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the Thursday, March 9th edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. We are here until 6 o'clock. Our text line's open, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter writes in salute of the softball team that won against Cleveland State 9-1. Softball, best start in program history. Go Herd. Yeah, they're doing pretty good. It's not terrible over there right now. It's not terrible, is it? Some pretty good stuff happening here. Again, our text line is 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter writes in support of Texter, why doesn't D'Antoni make substitutions? Players be stinking in their skill play. I'm sorry, I had to laugh on that one. Players be stinking in their skill of play. Sit them down. Let them think about it. Respect or no respect? Also, the texter adds, yes, it is time to do like the song, Hit the Road, Jack, Don't You Come Back no more, no more, no more, no more. D'Antoni has served his purpose and his assigned season. Wow. Now, I don't want to kick him. I don't want to kick him to the road. Like, I really don't want to kick him to the road. Like, I don't want to Boeheim him. Seriously, I don't want to Boeheim the guy. Have an awkward. Yeah, if it's time for him to go, let's do it respectfully. Honestly, if it's time for the coach to go, let's do it respectfully. If it's not time for him to go, let's get behind him and support him. One of the two things we can do. We can respect him as he leaves, and we can respect that process. Or if he's staying, guess what? Let's get behind him and get this thing pushed forward and hopefully get into the NCAA tournament once again. Texter writes in and says, Coach D had an impressive 26-win season and has brought excitement back to the Cam. However, if the Herd doesn't at least make NIT next season, then it's a time for change. What if the Herd makes the NIT this season? Then do we say, okay, it's all good? It's all good? Seriously, think about it for a second, if you will. If Marshall gets into the NIT, then all of a sudden do we sit back and go, well, time for Coach to go? Because that's what we're looking for right now. We're looking for the Thundering Herd to get into the NIT. And then maybe go make a run. That's what we're hoping happens here over the next few days. Is it going to happen? I'm not sure. There are some who are in the know heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend that we're getting in the NIT. You know who you are. You know who those people are. Maybe they're right. I don't know. But I think the Herd should get considered, but I don't think they're getting in. And I'm going to be happily, pleasantly proven wrong if they do get in. And then let's go. That's the attitude. I can't sit here and tell you that the resume is that strong. But we got to see what happens first. If a lot of teams that won the regular season conference don't end up using the auto bid, how many of those spots are going to be open, how many are going to fill up, how many teams are already looking at the NIT based on being almost good enough, being on the bubble there. A lot of bubble teams. We're going to see which teams get the shaft in the NCAA tournament, which teams get in that take up a spot. Basically, you don't want those teams that have no business getting in, getting hot. If a 9 seed comes out of nowhere in a conference tournament and wins an auto bid to the NCAA tournament, that's going to take up a spot here. If there's a team that is on the bubble and one of the power conferences doesn't go far in the conference tournament, or there's a bubble, there are going to be a lot of bubble teams. I think that's fair to say. A lot of bubble teams in this situation. So we're not going to know. You hope it happens. We're not going to know. You can anticipate it happening. We're not going to know. You can want it and wish it to happen. You can lobby on social media all you want until we get a good idea of what the bracket's going to look like for the NCAA tournament. We just don't know what's left, who's available, what the mindset is. Will a guy like Tavion Kinsey be enough to anchor a bid like, hey, you know what? Let's bring this guy and this team in because there'll be some exciting basketball to be played. The whole, it'll be a sellout. Will it be a sellout? Can you guarantee me right now, if Marshall gets into the NIT, it's going to be a sellout? Can you guarantee? Can you guarantee that? 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Couple of texts coming in late. Let's get them. Texter says, people talking get rid of D'Antoni are insane. The guy wins and wants to be here. Everyone else views the job as a stepping stone. I can't argue with that statement. The guy wins. There are wins behind his record. A lot more wins than losses. And he wants to be here. So is that the criteria? Winning and wants to be here. Would Marshall do better with a coach, an up-and-coming coach, or a coach that this is his dream job? I'll leave that for you. Texture says, if you, Sir Paul, would advise Tavion not to go to the NIT because of a potential next level, he decides he's not going, Marshall gets in, no Tavion, then what? I'm advising Tavion, if it's not the NIT, to think about it. If it's the NIT, I would probably, after a long conversation, tell Tavion the NIT is a lot better than nothing, and the NIT is a lot better than a CBI bid. But if Tavion doesn't want to go to the NIT or any of these, then that diminishes what potential there is for postseason. If these guys are done, if the team has gotten together and said, look, if it's not the NIT, we don't want to play, then I think we already know the answer. But if it's the NIT, I see that as a worthwhile endeavor. I honestly think that the NIT gets a lot of bad juju sometimes. Back to our text line. If the Herd makes the NIT, I can't guarantee a sellout, but I think it would. Okay, that's fair. Will we see 4,000? Will we see 5,000? We're not talking 2,000 here. Will it be close to a sellout? If Marshall gets into the NIT, would it be close to a sellout? Would there be a huge crowd showing up to the Cam Henderson Center to watch the Herd play in the NIT? If Marshall gets in the NIT and then it's a home game. Now we're all thinking in the back of our mind that if Marshall gets into the NIT, it's obviously going to be a home game. That is not guaranteed by any metric or standard because we don't know what the rest of the field is going to look like. Maybe a first-round home game. Depends on how high the NIT regards the Thundering Herd. I would think that some of the seeding would reflect that a little bit as well. Like how high the Herd's regarded. And I would throw in a little bit, if all things being equal, all right, I might give the nod to the Herd depending on the opponent because of potential ticket sales. I mean, let's be honest here. That does play into this a little bit more than we think. That does play into this. We got a few days to go. We're going to find out what happens here in the next few days. How many teams from the Big 12 get in? How many teams from the Big 10 get in? How many teams from the ACC get in? How many teams get in? Gobble up all those spots in the NCAA tournament, and then how many mid-majors drop down to the NIT? And is Sunbelt basketball regarded enough to warrant 2 or maybe 3? And was the win against some of the teams that they faced off in the conference in the Quad 2 and Quad 3 enough? Really nothing that stands out. There's no Quadrant 1 wins, but there are a couple Quad 2 wins, a couple Quadrant 2 losses. A majority of the wins come in Quadrant 4, a mix in Quad 3. Is that going to be enough? We'll find out. We'll talk about it more tomorrow on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.